Hi everyone, this is a demo of layer mask. So I'd like you to open a Photoshop document and make it letter size. So if you can find that in some of the documents that you've recently done, that would be good. So I have one here and I'm going to say create. It should be 200 at least pixels per inch, CMYK color, and the background contents white. So I'm going to make some new layers, 2 to be exact, and I'm on the first layer I'm going to place an image. The image is you'll find in your files and exercise files for exercises. So that's in Canvas. So the image that I'm getting is the sunset, and I'm going to place that on the layer. And it comes in with an X that when you hit return, it embeds the image, but it also makes the image a smart object in this version of Photoshop. So you have to, in order for what we're going to be doing, which is using masks, we should probably, we have to rasterize that. So go to layer and go to rasterize smart object. Otherwise, we may not be able to perform some of the functions that actually change the pixels. It lets you change certain functions of the image, but it stays linked if it's a smart object to the original file, and that imposes certain restrictions. So on layer 2, we're going to place another image that you find in the same place embedded, and you'll find an image again in your files in Canvas, and then it says files for exercises, I think. So this time place the one called arm. And do the same thing, hit return to get rid of that X and embed it, and then go to layer, rasterize smart object. So rasterize smart object. And it takes that little box away. Now I'd like you to select the arm with the quick selection tool. It's the 4th one down. So you go to the quick selection and make it size where you can just select the arm, the hand and the arm, the whole thing, including the black part. So if you didn't select it all, notice that I'm on the quick select tool plus above, so it knows to add on the fingers. And I think I got it all. And then I want you to go to select inverse. And that selects the part of the image, this layer, that's not the arm, and hit delete. So now you have the arm, just the arm on one layer, and on the layer below that you have the sunset. And you can lock the layer below just so you don't paint on it by mistake, because we're trying to paint on the arm layer. So there's a little lock. So we're painting on the arm layer, and you don't even have to have the arm selected anymore, I don't think, but we can save the selection just in case. Select, save selection, just in case we have to reselect on that layer, and I'm going to call it arm. Okay. And now I'm going to paint into that layer, and I can deselect first, Command D. I also, if you wanted to print this, I might crop the image a tiny bit on the top and bottom, because there was a little bit left over of the image on the original window. So that I cropped at the top and the bottom a tiny bit. Now I'm going to paint into this layer, but I'm going to paint into it with a layer mask. Masks allow you to affect the transparency of a layer. So I'm going to go up to the options for the layer, which are the 3 little lines at the top right corner of the layers palette and say, oh, as a matter of fact, it's not in there. Go to the palette and just go to the bottom, and there is a rectangle with a little circle in it. And that's where the layer mask function is. So click on that, add layer mask. It's the little rectangle with the round circle in it at the bottom of the layers palette. And now you can use the paintbrush tool to paint into pixels in the arm and lessen or opacify the intensity of those pixels, or the transparency of the pixels. So just remember when you look at your toolbar that when you're using a mask, black takes away from the mask and white adds to the mask. That's true in every mask, and I'll be showing you 3 different types of masks in the next few weeks. So now when we paint into this hand, we want it to look sort of hand of the goddess, transparent. So I'm going to make my opacity low so I can do this in stages. I don't have to lessen the transparency hugely right away. If you had it up to 100%, you'd actually be erasing. It would act like an eraser. So I just want slight transparency in this arm. So I'm going to go to a brush up above, maybe that's soft edge, but just a regular brush, a soft regular brush, so it doesn't make the marks don't look too hard edged. And then you can, with the brackets on the keyboard, forwards brackets make the brush bigger, backwards bracket make it smaller whenever you're using a brush. So I want mine to be fairly big and soft. And when I paint into it with black at a low opacity, you'll see that I begin to affect the transparency of the image, and you can actually see the sunset come through. And I might want to do that a lot if I don't want the arm at the edge to show. I'll zoom in as I do this to show you. Now, on that layer, you could actually make that arm slightly bigger too. If you wanted it to take up the whole image, for instance, you can go, as long as you're on that layer, you can go to Edit, Transform, and Scale, and it'll put a box around the arm because it's the only thing on that layer. And if you hold Shift, you can strain the proportions, although I don't think we need to do that anymore. I think it does it naturally. And I can make the arm bigger, I can pull it down. So now you can really see what's happening. And when I paint into this, it becomes, you can start seeing the trees through the arm, the sunset through the arm, and just sort of delicately take away from the arm, but you still want sort of the edge of it to show. And it's a really cool effect. So Hand of the Goddess. Okay, let's save this as your first file to show that you understood how to do that. Notice in the palette, you can see where you've painted into the mask. So save this as a PDF with your name on it. So exercise 6A, Joan Kahn. And this is the first part of the exercise that I want you to do. And I'm going to save this to hand in on my desktop as, well, in this case, I think I need you to give me them as Photoshop files so I can see your layers very exactly. So I can see your mask rather, because I'm not sure that shows up if you save it as an Adobe PDF. Or a Photoshop PDF. So save it, leave it as a Photoshop file and save it. Okay,